In the name of Allah, the most merciful and the most beneficent. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How are you, dear students? I hope you all are fine and enjoying your sound health. I welcome you in Pakistan International School Taif's virtual learning class and for the session 2020, and this is class for biology for grade second year, and today's lecture is 23rd. Dear students, we are studying chapter number 17, in which we are discussing nervous coordination. In that we have studied lots of interesting topics regarding nervous coordination, in which we have studied types of neurons or nerves. Then we have seen CNS, central nervous system, and then peripheral nervous system, somatic nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Dear students, today's topic is effects of drugs on nervous system, and we will see some disorders of nervous system, and then we will see how we diagnose these nervous disorders. So let's get started. Okay, what are drugs? Drugs are actually narcotics, and this is actually the group of that substance or the group of those substances which are taken by the body and they diminish or decrease the perception of pain. They decrease the perception of pain. Narcotics, actually what happened, they are bind with the neurons and with the post synaptic neurons, and then they bind over the receptors where the natural painkillers bind to reduce the pains. So narcotics bind with the pain-killing sites in the brain, and if these narcotics or these drugs, they are continuously taken by the body, so they start to build up in the body, and then in the body as well as in the brain, in the blood, and then they block the production of endorphins permanently or continuously, um, and they reduce like the pain killing effect. It means they do not have any type of sensation of pain in the body as well as about the surrounding environments. So what's going on, some dangerous situations, they don't feel them, because these narcotics, they bind the receptors where the endorphins bind. So endorphins are actually the brain's natural killing chemicals, which are produced in required quantity in the brain, and that is produced by the brain cells or neurons by themselves. So like they are the actually means narcotics are having a great side effects. What are these? They inhibit endocrine and autonomous nervous system, because endocrine, they produce hormones, and autonomous nervous system, they also produce certain type of neuroreceptors which just control the situation, the situation which is going around our body. For example, sudden shock, any dangerous situation, any natural disasters. So how we cope up that condition, they don't feel that condition actually, so these narcotics bind them. So narcotics are actually the drugs that act as agents which interact with the normal nervous system. So they act or interact with the normal nervous system like against the natural neurotransmitters. So let's talk about the very common narcotics or narcotic drugs which are like mostly taken by the people. So they are heroin, cannabis, nicotine, and alcohol. They are consumed in great amount. So heroin, let's talk about it. It gives a feeling of euphoria, like um, uh, it relieves the pain, and do not feel any type of pain in the body, and do not consider any difficult situation which is present in around us. And then if it is taken too much, so its side effects can be nausea, vomiting, and it affects on a respiratory system, circulatory system, and they can lead to depression as well. And the person can die, or it can lead to the death of that person. So when the people take, so the person who is addicted of heroin, so the person is having the feeling of euphoria, like he is always feeling pleasure and intense feeling of well-being and happiness. So this can lead to circulatory or respiratory depression, like respiratory and circulatory systems, they move, they work very strongly and very actively. So depression, this depression or this more functioning can lead to death. So cannabis is actually the drug which is derived from the Indian hemp plant that is called Cannabis sativa, and by their dried flowering tops. So it includes marijuana and hashish. We know that they are smoked in like smoking, and the users, they are having mild euphoria because it is having sometimes mild effects with alteration of vision if it persistently it is taken, and judgment, the person cannot even uh, judge the situation properly. Intoxication is recognized by the presence of a hallucination, so anxiety and depression as well. So the person can feel an experience of involving the apparent perception of something of which is not present. So that is the condition of hallucination, like the situation is not actually that, the person is feeling some other thing. So nicotine is an alkaloid derived from tobacco, and when it is smoked, the person is smoking a cigarette. So we know that in cigarette, nicotine is present in more amount, so it is quickly distributed to all body organs, and it can disturb the peripheral nervous system and stimulates postsynaptic receptors like for acetylcholine, and leads to increased skeletal muscular activity. Like when it increases acetylcholine in more amount, so it is continuously present in, for example, this is postsynaptic and this is presynaptic neuron. So here the receptors are, so acetylcholine is released continuously from here, from presynaptic. So here in postsynaptic, the receptors for acetylcholine is always present here. So it binds continuously with these receptors, and the person is continuously having the skeletal muscular activity. So the body is shaking, like heartbeat is increased, and blood pressure can also increase in as a result. So alcohol is like that is very very commonly used in whole of the world. So it acts as a depressant when the people are depressed, so they use alcohol, which slows down the nervous communication. So they feel relaxed after taking that one, but its short-term effect is impairment of vision, like after taking too much quantity of alcohol, so they feel impairment of visions, like they cannot see properly the things, and there can be like they can feel like doubling and tripling in the vision, and they cannot have the proper judgment of any situation and alertness also. So long-term chronic drinking can also damage the nervous system. Like it can happen in every type of addiction. It can destroy liver, because liver is the site where all the drugs are detoxified. So if there is liver damage due to more consumption of alcohol, especially, so the cells can be damaged, and liver cannot detoxify alcohol properly, so it can lead to certain other problems. So pancreas, and also it leads to like undevelopment of certain like organs. Withdrawal symptoms of alcohols, like if the person is going to withdraw the alcohol and eliminate addictive substances, not only alcohol but other substances also from their life, so they feel some withdrawal symptoms, like they feel a sudden um, anxiety and irritability, depression, headache, hallucination, like this is too much difficult to withdraw any type of drug. So if the person is addicted, so this type of situation, like they feel depression, they feel irritability, that's a shakiness of the skeletal muscles, and persistent headache as well. Inhalants is, we cannot say the new one, but it is also uh, like the addiction, which is like increasing day by day. That is, inhalants are those substances which are volatile organic chemicals, and they are having like uh, the smell, the fragrance, or those chemicals that make those that type of fragrance that appeals very fascinating when we inhale them, and then the person feels relaxed after inhaling that one. So they are called glue sniffing also. So inhalant abuse is now like it's increasing day by day, and they include aerosols, like the sprays, which volatile sprays which are having organic chemicals, like we are having hair sprays, we are having anesthetics, and we are having certain like spray paints, extraction in which ether is used. So it starts suddenly euphoria, like appearance of well-being and happiness uh, by our central nervous system. It gets depressed and active. Deep breathing of these, they can lead to hallucination and death as well. Drug addiction is all is a dependence on an illegal drug or a medication. In some medications, these drugs are used in a minor quantity for uh, analgesic effect, but if it is used as illegal drug in more quantity, and the person is used to this drug or addict of this drug, that's called drug addiction. And uh, after some time, what is going to happen, the person, if it is taking just little amount of that drug, and the person's diminished response to the drug, but after repeated and repeated mm, uh, like using of that drug, this amount is going to be increased to give the same effect of that drug which was before with the minor quantity. So like drug tolerance is going to be increased and day by day. So for example, this is the example of nicotine or caffeine, which we use for longer period of time. So larger doses are going to be used or taken, or they are needed to give the same effect. Effects of drug addiction and tolerance on the central system, that is like it activates neurons because their chemical structures mimics that natural neurotransmitters. For example, we have seen endorphins. So like the drugs like heroin, uh, they can mimic that type of structure, and they bind the receptors where the natural transmitters, neurotransmitters are going to bind. So they mimic the situation, they mimic the same type of a structure. So with interaction of brain and the body, they alter the moods, emotions, behaviors by changing brain chemistry. Totally, they change the brain chemistry, like they make the person addictive for all the time, because the persons feel what we can say euphoria after this one, and happiness and well-being. So and they try to escape from their bad situations. That's why this happens. Okay, so they act both as depressant, like they slow down some body functions, for example, nervous system, central nervous system, so they don't perceive any type of pain and different situations which are going to happen around them. And some they stimulate the effects on the body, like heartbeat is going to be increased, and breathing rate, respiratory rate is going to be increased. So let's talk about, dear students, about some disorders of nervous system. And disorder of nervous system, we are having different classification of them, like some are vascular nervous disorders, some are infectious, some are structural, some are functional, and some are degenerative. So let's talk about one by one. So here we will see vascular disorders of a CNS. So number one is a stroke. Like if it occurs due to a rupture of small cerebral arteries, like cerebral cortex arteries are present, we supply blood to the brain. So cause can be any type of hypertension, cigarette smoking, diabetes, high alcohol, or any drug intake, thrombosis, like when the clot is formed in the arteries. And some blood disorders, leukemia, like they can be act as like the cause of a stroke. Blood embolism, like there is any type of clot which is present anywhere else, but it's moving around, like uh, we can say the cancerous cells or like that, which move around in the blood and reaches to the vascular reaches to the brain arteries. And cocaine abuse also, because they are going to make all these stuff like cigarette smoking, nicotine is going to make the arteries harder, so this will they can lead to stroke. The uh, as symptoms, we can see that sudden loss of functions of one region in the brain, or weakness or heaviness in the arms, legs, and paralysis can be on opposite side or both of the sides, as well as aphasia, like inability to express through words, because there is a damage of some arteries and brains portion. So this can happen when sudden breakdown and leakage of the arteries can be done. So there can be treatment of uh, like we can have the treatment of this stroke problem, like anticoagulants and platelets aggregation inhibitors are given, such as aspirin is too much, like, and blood pressure should be managed, and there should be proper care of that person so that they can be prevent the next coming attacks or strokes. So next is infectious disorders, like they can be happen with any type of infectious agent, from fungi, bacteria, virus, any type of protozoa or platyhelminthes. In that, very common is meningitis, as we have seen that meningitis is derived from meninges. You know meninges? Yes. We have seen in CNS and brain. Meninges are the layers of the brain, cerebral cortex, dura mater, and then we are having arachnoid matter and then pia mater. So these are the meninges. Actually, the dura mater is the upper layer, which is near to the cranium or joined with the cranium. Then we are having arachnoid matter, and that is like this. Then we are having its like extensions. Then we are having pia mater, which is with the brain. Okay, so this arachnoid matter is having the space, and this space is filled with cerebro spinal fluid, CSF. So any type of bacteria or protozoan or any type of virus can reach here, because these arteries and veins are going to reach here in dura pia mater as well as arachnoid matter. So with the blood they can transfer to the brain portions as well, and in this fluid it can move from one place to another. So meningitis, meninge from meninges, and itis means inflammation. So this is inflammation of meninges. So the cause is definitely bacterial, any type of viral infection, and symptoms it can look the stiffness in the neck, because when there is inflammation, swelling is there, redness is there, so you can feel headache, severe headache, and feel fever as well. So in severe cases, meningitis can lead to paralysis, coma, and death can also occur. So for viral meningitis, we do not have any type of medication, specific medications, but painkillers, analgesics are given, like for reducing the temperature and fever and headache, we can give certain type of medicines. Or sometimes it is covered after some time by itself, but it's hard to recover because it's just spread too quickly. So in bacterial meningitis, person is given to antibiotics, and in most rare cases steroids as well. Then we are having structural disorders of central nervous system. In that, the very common is tumor. Tumor is actually, we know that it is a mass of neuroglia, neuroglial cells, which is produced as we know that by the uncontrolled cell division. Neuroglial cells, we know that on axons we are having these Schwann cells. These are called neuroglial cells, and some other neuroglial cells are also present in the. This is the cell body, and this is axon, and this is these are terminals. So they can like start to like divide repeatedly. uncontrollably, so they can lead to make the tumor here. They can block other neurons function, or they can degenerate the brain structure because it releases certain toxins in the brain. So it is caused by mutation. Yes, it can be happen mutation when the cell is going to divide. So it can be by the mutation. Mutation means changing in the chromosomes, DNA level as well. So it can be occur by the age, when age is growing, so brain and spinal cord can affect. So symptoms definitely feel a tumor at the place, and like it when it is in the brain, so headache, definitely severe nerve pain, fever, seizures, and paralysis, coma, and that, because paralysis and coma is very much common because that just controls whole of the body. So it deactivate all the like required part of the body. So the treatment is definitely surgical with the chemotherapy as well. In functional disorders, we are having headaches. So headache is very common. It's of different types. So primary headache is also there due to headache condition itself, not due to any other reason like a stress, like some sort of like a person can feel we can say with hunger, like with the severe heat, scorching heat, and different type of stress conditions and environmental conditions can act for that, and in which we are having migraine as well. That is very common, a headache all over the world. Actually, the brain lacks pain receptors, but that is due to um, some other causes or conditions, and due to disturbance of the pain receptors in like in we can say in the blood capillaries, blood arteries, in the meninges, or any in other structure of the brain. So we can have the secondary headaches, which is due to the underlying structural problems in the head, neck, or bleeding in the brain. If there is problem in the neck, so it can just lead into the head also. Tumors, meningitis can also the problem, and there are several analgesics for them. Then we'll see degenerative disorders. So in that we will see Alzheimer's disease. That is the cause is genetic predisposition, like the people which are suffering from Alzheimer's disease, they like they can have genetic variations, and which are inherited from parent to uh, from parental genetic susceptibility. So they can run into the families as well. As Alzheimer's disease, actually the slowly progressive disease of the brain that is characterized by impairment of memory and really by disturbances in the reasons, planning, language, perception. The people just for short-term memory can be decreased. They cannot remember the things for longer period of time. They forget the things, like impairment in the of memory. Okay, so if we just talk its symptoms, there is short-term memory loss that is going to be happen with the age as well, and genetic predisposition is also is the cause of that one. So treatment, there is no effective treatment for this disease because that is with the growing age. Sometimes it happens, some proteins can deposit in the brain and around the neurons, or which can disturb that area of the brain. For example, if it is in any type of cerebral lobe, so that can affect that type of like conditions and functioning of the brain. For example, memory loss, if is very, very common, and by the time it is going to be increased, not to decrease. Okay, so we are that's it for today, my dear students. Inshallah, we will continue this lecture in which we will see about diagnostic test for nervous disorders in the next lecture. Wish you all the best. Allah Hafiz.